On Tech News Today, the FCC wants to bring cable TV to the internet, and the cable TV industry doesn't like it at all. Plus, the UK government was given a blank check to get surveillance data from the NSA without a warrant, and Twitch wants users to keep their clothes on. We've got 6 great journalists on the show today to talk about the tech news, so stick around. Tech News Today is next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Citrix ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with Citrix ShareFile. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the microphone, and enter TNT. And by Citrix GoToAssist. GoToAssist offers a secure, cloud-based solution for IT and customer support professionals to provide live and unattended remote support to their employees and customers working from any computer or mobile device. For a 30-day free trial, go to gotoassist.com and check it out. Tech News Today is a show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who reported. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan. Behind the controls is Anthony Nielsen. Good morning to you, Anthony.
Hey there. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for running the show. Never mind the man behind the curtain. I saw him in the break room this morning. He was like, yeah, thanks a lot for 7 guests, which he only has 2 hands. So that's a problem. Hard to do, but he can do it. He can take it.
Yep.
And also joining us as our guest co-anchor is Seth Rosenblatt. Welcome to you, Seth Rosenblatt, senior writer at CNET.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, you wrote an article yesterday, published yesterday, actually.
Yes.
About Android security, and you had an interesting tidbit about the guy who runs the whole thing, about his personal sense of security.
Yes, very interesting. So Adrian Ludwig, the head of Google's Android security engineering team, he's their lead engineer there, and he revealed to me and several other reporters that were on the conference call that he doesn't lock his front door, and he does not live in the boonies. He lives somewhere in the urban wilds of San Francisco. Well,
whatever, it's his house. I just hope he locks Android. Doesn't leave that door open because that's not good.
Right.
So interesting.
I mean, the point he was making was that he wants to not think about security, and he expects that Android users shouldn't think about security either. Whether that's actually how people go about securing their Android devices, I think, is an issue of much debate.
Well, you can check out the article at cnet.com. Just search for Seth Rosenblatt with 2 T's at the end, and you'll find the article. Well, we had some late-breaking news that hit about an hour and a half ago. CurrentC, which is the alternative to Apple Pay and Google Wallet being foisted on retail store customers, has already been hacked. Some email addresses of users or prospective users have been stolen from the CurrentC system. The company is notifying victims via email, and they say that no other information has been taken. I'm sure other shows here on the Twit Network will be covering this story in more depth as we go through the rest of the week. But it is not a good start for a company that's forcibly making people use its system instead of the very secure Apple Pay and Google Wallet.
Correct. And you know what's really interesting about this, Mike, is that this may be the first time that a payment system has been hacked before it was actually launched.
Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, it's really remarkable. And other oddities with CurrentC, it doesn't work with NFC chips, which is how the physical payments for Apple Pay and Google Wallet are done. It's going to be a very hard sell, I think, for everybody but maybe the merchants.
We've been, those of us in technology who cover technology, who are interested in technology, who have been following the mobile wallet world for a long time and been waiting for it for a decade or 2, are super excited that we're finally getting to the point where we're moving beyond these dumb credit cards where you send all your information back to the back of the restaurant for whoever to copy down all the data and steal your identity, et cetera. We're finally moving beyond all that stuff. We're finally moving beyond it with tokenized transactions that don't leave data on the retailer's servers and so on. So exciting. And then these guys come along with CurrentC and say, you know what, we're going to go back to the 90s. We're going to use QR codes instead of NFC. It's just really ridiculous.
I know. QR codes and barcodes. I mean, it's a little preposterous.
Partying like it's 1999. Well, the FCC yesterday proposed new rules that would bring cable TV to the internet in a big way. Julian Hattem is covering the news for The Hill, and Alex Barinka wrote about it for Bloomberg News. They both join us now. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much for having us.
Now, Julian, the rule change was made public in a blog post by FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler. What are those changes, and how would they change the internet TV landscape?
So, like you said, this is still in the early stages of the process, but effectively what Tom Wheeler wants to do is extend the current cable TV rules to not just cable and satellite, but also over the internet. And theoretically, as far as he hopes, what this would do would create cable companies online. So it would allow cable companies or new upstart companies to launch an online service that would allow for them to get multiple live channels of television. So this is kind of above and beyond Netflix and Hulu, in that it would be not just pick and choose what shows you want to watch when, but it would be multiple channels and live. So there would be at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, there's this show at 8 o'clock, that show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it would allow these companies to have the same rights to buy those shows that cable and satellite companies currently have, which could theoretically make it a lot easier to watch TV on your computer than on your TV.
Interesting. Alex, can you tell us how what the cable companies think of the proposal?
So we were not able to have them kind of chime off on things, but if you remember, CBS is now offering an over-the-top offering. You have HBO. Dish has come out and said they're looking at the same thing. For them, they are really caring about that negotiation about these new, if this were to pass, if these new online services were to be able to act like cable companies, they still will have to negotiate to get their hands on the content. So for the broadcasters, the ones who have taken issue with companies like Aereo in the past, that is key for them because they still want to be able to get those licensing fees for the shows and movies that they're making in-house.
Alex, you wrote a great piece for Bloomberg about how this affects Aereo. First of all, can you just review for us Aereo's strange business model, what happened to them in the Supreme Court, and how this affects them?
Sure. So Aereo was a startup, an online TV startup backed by the likes of Barry Diller, who had thousands and thousands of antennas. It would capture broadcast streams, so those channels that you can still get with an antenna, and deliver it to customers online on the internet from the market that you're in. So if I'm in my apartment in New York, then there's an antenna within the area that would send me the local news if I wanted to tune into that. The broadcasters sued ABC and other broadcasters sued Aereo. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court earlier this year, and the court basically said, Aereo, since you look like a cable company and you're not paying licensing fees because they were not paying fees to the broadcasters, you are violating their copyright. So that kicked the Aereo case back down to the district court. It's in the district court in New York right now. And since then, the judge there, Judge Nathan, has said, we're going to go back and review all of this. Right now, you need to cease operations, which they had already done. And, Aereo had gone to the judge and said, so since the Supreme Court said we look like a cable company, then we should be entitled to that license. The judge said, no, hold on. Right now there's no kind of premise for you as an online service, so you're going to have to go through the Copyright Office. The Copyright Office says, hold on, well, we need to see what happens in court. So for them, Wheeler coming out with this proposal is kind of a beacon of hope that there's some kind of life left in the company, because if this kind of, new characterization of these video providers were to include these online services, then Aereo could theoretically, go back through the process, apply for this compulsive license to provide this content, and then go back to the broadcasters and negotiate for the rights to have their programming.
Huh. That sounds like an extremely labyrinthine process. Julian,
it's been a labyrinth for them.
Yeah, it's amazing they're still around. Maybe Julian, can you tell us how this is going to affect Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon's Fire TV?
Well, it remains to be seen. But theoretically, what Tom Wheeler has been saying is this could really open the door to a lot of that competition. In addition to Aereo, it could, as Alex noted, Sony, Dish are kind of entering the market. Amazon, these other companies have started to look around on there. It's unclear. So far as I understand it, a lot of those other companies are still offering or seeking to offer kind of pick and choose TV channels. So if I want to watch House of Cards at this time and something else at another time, that's up to me. But the FCC regulation would only really apply to companies that offer streaming or live programming and multiple channels, which is really important. And so Aereo is a really good example here because that's effectively the kind of service that would seem to be allowed under this new regulation or these expanded regulations if they were indeed to go through. But one of the big questions still is whether or not the regulations will also extend some of the current requirements that currently exist for cable companies to online services. So, for instance, if you get a Comcast or Time Warner cable package, one of the rules says that they have to have broadcast channels like ABC, NBC, CBS on the lowest tier, so on the cheapest possible service channel. The current rules, or this proposed rules that Wheeler is making available, don't take a stand on that. It's asking whether or not that should be extended to online channels as well. There are some other questions along those lines and about what the obligations are for online services as well. So a lot of those things still have to be hammered out. This is certainly still kind of in the beginning process of the stages. But the theory is that it could certainly lead to more competition and more innovation, and Wheeler has said also to new kind of broadband infrastructure. Because if cable companies and internet service providers have an increasing interest in making sure that people get like really, really good, fast, high-speed internet, then they're gonna start laying out those lines and making sure that people can get those high speeds so that they can pay $20, $40 a month, whatever, to watch TV through their computer.
And if anybody's interested about the monetization and the varying models that exist in the cable TV industry, check out last Sunday's Twit show. There was a really amazing conversation about that was very illuminating. You can get that at twit.tv. Julian Hattem writes at thehill.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at jmhattem with 2 T's. Thank you so much for joining us, Julian.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And Alex Barinka is at Bloomberg.net, and you can follow her on Twitter at Alex Barinka. Thanks a lot, Alex.
Thank you.
Right, in just a sec, we're going to hear the latest NSA revelations. We haven't heard some in a while, so it's time for us to revisit that whole thing. But first, I want to tell you about Citrix ShareFile. I hate being a scaremonger, but some things are truly scary. One of them is sending sensitive files over the internet. It's not a safe or secure thing to do. Let me just give you a little thought exercise about what could happen. Let's say you sent something sensitive a year ago to 3 people. Okay, you've lost control completely over those files. Those people could be hacked today or a year from now, and your file will get out into the wrong hands. That's the problem with email. You distribute it way beyond your control. The great thing about Citrix ShareFile is you never lose control. You always maintain control over the files that you send. Why? Because you don't send it as an attachment. That's yesterday's way to send files over the internet. The right way to do it is to upload it to a secure place in the cloud and send a secure link. And then what Citrix ShareFile allows you to do is control that file, control that information about the file. You can, for example, be notified when somebody downloads it. You can determine exactly who is allowed to download it. You can say how many times they can download it. You can say how many days they can download it for. You always maintain control of your file. You never give up control of that file. So this is an absolute must-use service. Citrix ShareFile is the only way to send files securely over the internet. And by the way, you can send enormous files as well, multiple gigabytes in size, and ShareFile will handle those with no problem at all. Sometimes you send a file to somebody who works for some company, and they've got some kind of rule in their firewall that doesn't allow files of a certain size to get through. Sometimes they notify you, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they notify you and the notification gets put into your spam. You know, there's all these different things. You can forget all that. Just use Citrix ShareFile, maintain control of your files, send files of any size securely every single time. Sign up today for our 30-day free trial. No obligation. Just go to sharefile.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter TNT. Remember, visit sharefile.com and type in TNT. Human rights groups have surfaced information strongly suggesting that British intelligence services can get bulk communications data from the NSA and other U.S. agencies without a warrant. David Meyer wrote about the news for GigaOM and joins us now from Berlin. Welcome, David. And we either have a delay or he can't hear me, or can you hear us, David?
Hi. Hopefully I think we've
all right,
a slight connection problem there.
Okay. Let's hope that let's give it one shot and hope that it cures itself. Sometimes there's just a temporary glitch. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the question,
I can
David.
hear you. It's coming through strangely. It only started a moment ago, this lag.
Okay. We're going to give it a try and see what happens. If it doesn't work, then
Absolutely.
we'll do an audio-only one. Now, which human rights groups are involved here, and where did they get the information?
It's a group called Privacy International, working with Amnesty International and Liberty. And what they're doing is they have sued the UK government in a kind of what's usually a secret court called the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. And they want to find out, in the wake of Edward Snowden's revelations, they want to find out whether they've been spied on by the UK spy services and how much information has been passed on from the Americans and so on. So this information was actually given as evidence by government lawyers to this tribunal behind closed doors, but then the tribunal gave the civil rights groups permission to make this information public.
Is this the first time that human rights groups have gotten involved in the spying between NSA and GCHQ?
Actually, Privacy International has been working with quite a few human rights groups from around the world. They've actually got a lot of different cases on the boil. This is a very interesting one. It's already uncovered information suggesting that the UK government reckons it's all right to spy on British people as long as the information is passing through overseas servers. Now, obviously, people use Facebook, people use Google. These are services that are based in the US. So to them, this all counts as foreign communications, even if it's just somebody communicating within the UK with somebody else in the UK. But there are different cases on the boil. They've even gone to Europe's top court. It almost feels like they're sort of throwing everything and seeing what sticks.
The whole thing feels to me like it reminds me of the whole rendition program with the CIA. So, the United States says, we don't torture people. What we do is we kidnap them and take them to countries that do torture them and sort of outsource the torturing, that sort of thing. This sounds to me like a kind of a sweetheart deal, and I'm oversimplifying, and correct me if this is inaccurate, but basically the United States and the UK presumably are saying, and that's one of the questions, is there a quid pro quo about this? Is it going in both directions? But it seems to be like, the U.S. is saying, okay, UK, you guys spy on American citizens, we'll spy on UK citizens, and then we'll swap data and everything's fine, no warrants required. Is it something like that, or is that misleading?
Well, this is the picture that the Snowden leaks have painted overall, and it's very difficult to escape that conclusion. The different spy agencies try to justify what they do through various sort of semantic torturing of words. Yes, it does seem that everyone seems to sort of spy on each other's behalf. The interesting thing here is that the Government Intelligence Committee, in the UK, straight after the Snowden leaks, had assured everybody that no information is brought in from overseas from foreign partners like the NSA without a warrant signed by the relevant government minister. And the information that's come out now is that, yes, they do get information without a warrant under certain circumstances, such as when they couldn't get the information through their own spy work, which all suddenly, they've been claiming that these are very tight rules, and it turns out that they're actually very, very fuzzy, and there's not much oversight.
So what are the human rights groups asking for here to happen here as a remedy?
Well, they want to, in terms of a remedy, they are basically just trying to find out the truth, I think. They're trying to find out whether they have been spied upon, their communications, and these are people who deal with dissidents and all sorts of very sensitive information. And then I presume that if the tribunal decided, yes, that there was all of this stuff going on, then they would take it to Europe's highest court, and I suppose the remedy thereafter is for this sort of thing to stop.
I think it's clear that there's a pendulum swinging here. There was a lot of safeguards in place before 9/11. After 9/11, the Bush administration said the gloves are off. What the gloves are off means is that the rules that used to dictate exactly how you protect citizens, how you protect information, are going to be thrown out the window or modified, and we're just going to sort of, the pendulum swings in the other direction. I think that now after the Snowden revelations, there's going to be another pendulum swing, I hope, back in the other direction, and eventually maybe we'll be able to balance more effectively the rights of citizens, or in the case of the UK, subjects, with the need to protect people, essentially do pre-crime around terrorism, that sort of thing. David Meyer is at gigaohm.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at the spectacular Twitter handle Superglaze. I'll have to ask you about that someday. Thank you for joining us, David Meyer.
It was a pleasure, as always.
Thank you. Well, one of the disturbing trends in journalism is that corporations with self-serving agendas and a dubious commitment to the ethics of journalism are paying for and controlling new publications. One recent example hit this week. Verizon's wireless subsidiary is funding a tech site called SugarString. John Brodkin is a senior IT reporter for Ars Technica and joins us to talk about SugarString. Welcome to you, John Brodkin.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. SugarString looks like a fully legit news site, but they have blanket bans on specific topic areas. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, the two topics writers at SugarString are not allowed to write about are United States spying and network neutrality, which are two topics that Verizon has obviously a major stake in.
So, I mean, it's sort of a hard circle to square there, because there's so many issues that Verizon is involved in. Why are these two called out?
Well, I think they're, more controversial than some of the other issues. Verizon is the company that sued the FCC to overturn net neutrality. So Verizon is really the reason we're having this whole net neutrality debate right now, where the FCC is trying to put in place rules that can replace the ones that were thrown out. And in terms of U.S. spying, I mean, you remember Verizon is one of the first major revelations after Edward Snowden was that Verizon had to turn over phone records and all their customers to the federal government.
Now, is this an example of Verizon not being objective, or is this an example of them trying in a sort of clumsy fashion to be super objective?
So I think my theory is that they want to create an alternative to the regular tech press, and that people will go to this site for their news, and there's nothing particularly wrong with what the stories write. They just will not include those topics that Verizon doesn't want people to fully understand. And also, if you go to the site, you'll notice that there are a lot of Verizon ads. So in a way, if they could make this popular, they would be getting free advertising in a sense.
This is sort of a highly unusual thing in the news business, correct? Other news organizations find ways to cover topics that are related to the organization's owners. CNET is owned by CBS. We certainly cover CBS-related issues. Why can't Verizon do this?
Well, I don't know, but one of the ways they were trying to pitch it is the editor was trying to hire people, and he said, we're not advertorial. We're basically like Motherboard, which was sponsored by Dell, but the difference is that Motherboard had a sponsorship, but they weren't completely bankrolled by Dell, and I don't think, as far as I know, Dell wasn't telling them they had to not cover certain topics. So I don't really know what Verizon's overall plan is here, but it's certainly kind of weird and funny.
Do they have a plan?
I don't know.
It's kind of frustrating for those of us who've been journalists for a while. I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and these questions have been grappled with and solved long ago. And then a company like this comes along, and it's amateur hour. If you're going to cover stuff and you're going to have these blanket bans that are right otherwise right within the world of what you cover. They cover technology, right? So these are important technology topics. And for example, one of the weird things that they have is that they don't cover surveillance when the United States government does surveillance, but they'll cover GCHQ, they'll cover Chinese surveillance and Russian surveillance and everybody else's surveillance. And so what you get is this very unbalanced picture of surveillance, of the world of surveillance, because of this clumsy, amateurish ban on that one narrow topic area. That's just my view. I'm pontificating a bit there. I don't really have a question associated with that, but I just think that it's curious that they're getting into this. But this is really kind of the future, isn't it? We're going to have a lot of private companies who just want a lot of eyeballs playing newspaper publisher, and this is the kind of thing we're going to get, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose it might be. I don't think that's 100% definite, though.
John, what do you think would happen if Verizon had a bad earnings quarter?
In terms of this website?
Yeah, would they cover it? I mean, is this something that they would cover? Is this, you know?
It doesn't. I kind of doubt it. I mean, the mission statement on the site says something like they're going to cover positive news, like the tech culture. Let me just find it for a second. Their About Us page describes itself as follows. It took the universe 14 billion years to make a Homo sapien. It's taking Homo sapiens just a few decades to make a universe. What kind of a universe will it be? SugarString publishes thoughtful tech-focused stories that track humanity's climb towards the new next.
Oh, give me a break.
That doesn't really sound like they're going to be covering Verizon financials.
Yeah,
No.
or anything of use.
Sounds like they want attention, and they've decided that tech journalism is the way to get it. Good luck. John Brodkin writes for arstechnica.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at @JBrodkin. That's Brodkin with a K-I-N at the end. Thank you for joining us, John.
Thanks.
The gaming video site Twitch updated its rules of conduct yesterday. I think they updated them. In any event, they want to ban, quote, sexually aggressive clothing, unquote. Joining us to talk about the story is Jessica Conditt, senior reporter for Joystick. Welcome, Jessica.
Hey, good to be here.
Now, you talked to Twitch about the policy. What did they tell you?
Yeah, basically, this isn't a new policy. This is just a clarification on long-standing rules that Twitch has already had. So basically, no bathing suits, no lingerie, no, for men, no full naked torsos. For ladies, a shirt would be nice. You know, it's basically the same thing that has been ruling Twitch for a while, but now it's written out. And people, I think, kind of latched on to the sexually aggressive clothing line, because that's a little weird how they phrased that. But it's nothing new, really.
Jessica, is this related at all to Twitch's sale to Amazon?
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that we asked Chase, the PR director at Twitch. He said that, nope, this is just something that's been around for a while, and we just updated our rules of service to kind of make it more clear for users. So they have some strict guidelines, like it definitely says no lingerie, no swimsuits, you know, no naked anything.
Sure. So
yeah.
So why now?
That's a good question.
Did their representative address that at all?
Yeah, basically he just said that some users had been asking for clarification on what is allowed and what isn't, and this was just here you go, here it is. It's
funny that as I'm reading this story, it seems like they're trying way too hard to be egalitarian between the genders, and they're essentially saying no toplessness from both women and men. No bathing suits, including, I guess, I mean, a dude wearing, you know, board shorts or something like that, I guess is off limits, even though you can show all that kind of stuff on TV. I grew up in Southern California. I used to go to school wearing board shorts, and that was acceptable. Is that the case, or is this sort of a case-by-case basis that they're going to be enforcing this?
Well, yeah, one thing that the Twitch people said was that this isn't them being the fashion police. They don't care if you look awful, but it's just making sure that we're not seeing nudity, that there isn't anything taking away from the actual gameplay, which is what Twitch is, you know, supposed to be about. You're supposed to turn it on, watch people play games, not necessarily see anything sexual that you're not looking for. But in terms of the gender thing, this is where a lot of people went, especially in our comments on the article, talking about the women who wear like low-cut shirts and maybe they won't be able to do that anymore. That's not the case. These are the same rules that have been in place. So if you've been watching a streamer and she's like cosplaying as someone from League of Legends, she happens to have a low-cut shirt, that'll probably still be allowed. Twitch isn't trolling the channels to make sure that everyone is dressed appropriately. This is if users contact Twitch or flag something as inappropriate, then Twitch can investigate and see if it is actually breaking the rules.
Now, are there any such rules on language or violence, or is this just sexually aggressive clothing?
In terms of what the streamers are doing, there are no rules against a potty mouth. Like in their codes of conduct, it says you can have a filthy sailor mouth and have fun with that. But in terms of sexually aggressive content in video games, if it pops up in a game, it's no big deal. But if the whole stream features an excessive amount of nudity or sexual conduct or violence, actually, I don't think they really care about, because a lot of games are pretty violent anyway. But as long as it's a game and if it just happens to have this content, then that's okay.
You can blow somebody away with a sort of a laser weapon. Just make sure they're wearing a shirt, I guess. Seth, you had a question?
Something like that.
Yeah, Jessica, I had one more question. How effective has Twitch been at their policing policy?
Yeah, and basically, they say that they haven't gotten many cases. No one has really been spamming them with, oh my gosh, this person is not wearing the right type of clothes. They haven't gotten a lot of dress code violations. So they have contacted a few people that I know of, a few streamers that, like, there was this one lady who was wearing lingerie in her photo, and Twitch said, hey, you have to change this. And so it's just little things like that, but it's not like a widespread issue or anything. This was just an update, and it used a very strange phrase. So I think a lot of people latched onto that.
Jessica Conditt writes at joystick.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Jess Conditt. Thank you so much for joining us, Jess.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Just a sec, we have a couple of follow-ups, but first I want to tell you about Citrix Go to Assist, the one and only way that you should be supporting people remotely. If you're in IT support or do customer support or support your partners or whomever, you have to remember that any sort of remote support is a security issue. Every day on this show, we have these horrible security stories of people getting hacked, and there's so many ways, so many doors in. And of course, you want to make sure that when you do remote support, that's secure. You're essentially gaining access inside the firewall to somebody else's system. You have to make sure that it comes from Citrix, because this is a company that understands security. That's why I highly recommend Citrix Go to Assist, which is, by the way, the #1 global market leader in remote support. It's super easy to use, and it is super contemporary. It's not yesterday's, not your father's remote support solution. This is cloud-based remote support, among other things. It can be app-based, so you can support people from your mobile device. You can screen share with employees to diagnose and fix their problems faster and more effectively. And Go to Assist, of course, is super easy to use, and you can set it up in less than a minute. So whether you're supporting 1 coworker, 10 employees, or 1,000, you got to use Citrix Go to Assist. Sign up today for a 30-day free trial. No contract, no credit card needed. Just visit gotoassist.com and click on the Try It Free button now. And if you purchase Go to Assist before October 31st, use the promo code GoToAssist3030. Why would you do that? Why would you use Go to Assist 3030? Because that'll get you 30% off the standard monthly rate. And we thank them for supporting Tech News Today. We told you a couple of weeks ago about the default SIM card that now comes with all Apple iPads. The card is software switchable between carriers, although not all U.S. carriers are participating. But now Greg Joswiak, Apple's vice president for iPhone, iPod, and iOS product marketing, said that the Apple SIM will not, repeat, will not be coming to iPhones. The carriers probably want that to be made very clear, because the last thing they want is for you to be able to switch carriers very easily. Well, OnePlus, the company that makes the OnePlus One smartphone, opened up its phone at long last for public pre-order. And just like everything else this company has tried to do, the pre-order was an epic fail. The servers crashed, leaving people unsure about whether the orders went through. OnePlus apologized for the pre-order problems and announced another chance for would-be customers to order the phone on November 17th. So if you're looking to pre-order this, remember the date, November 17th. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Ali Lankarani, who tweeted that he watches TNT while while getting ready for Halloween. Check it out. There we are in the background up there on the big screen TV while these girls create some frightening jack-o'-lanterns. How cool is that? He probably doesn't do that all year, though. My guess is that he only does it before Thanksgiving. Just a guess. Don't want to assume anything. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. We'd love to see your videos. We'd love to see your selfies, your animated GIFs or GIFs, your auto-awesomes, your vines, whatever. Just post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tech News Today. Seth Rosenblatt, thank you so much for joining us as our guest co-anchor.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Great to have you on, and I hope to have you on again sometime soon.
Excellent.
All right. Well, you can subscribe to Tech News Today on YouTube, Stitcher, Feedly, iTunes, Yahoo, RSS. There's a bunch of ways to subscribe, and you just make sure you subscribe. Just choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can even follow us on Ello at Tech News Today. And please send us your thoughts and opinions by sending email to tnt@twit.tv. Call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. Nobody's going to answer the phone, but you can leave a message. Don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every single weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.